Okay. Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors for May 20th. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The roll call, please.
Supervisor Groom. Present. Excuse me. Supervisor Horsley.
Here.
Supervisor Slocum. Here. Supervisor Tissier.
Here.
President Pine.
Here. We'll now move to public comment as we do at the beginning of each meeting. So this is the time for people to speak to items that are not on the agenda or are listed on the consent agenda, county manager's report, or board member reports. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak, and since they're not agendized, we can't have a dialogue about them. So we do have, looks like 3 speakers today. So we'll begin with Marty Fox.
Good morning, President Pine, members of the board, my fellow veterans, Supervisor Slocum and Mr. Walpe, and County Council Mr. Byers. Thank you for your service to the county and pledging your allegiance to our republic, which guarantees freedom of association for all, even those persons living with serious mental illness who are insight deficient and cannot advocate for services that would restore their freedom to associate with their families. Laura's Law, assisted outpatient treatment, produces positive outcomes, and evidence of the positive outcomes was examined by the U.S. Department of Justice before it certified assisted outpatient treatment as an effective, economical, and humane way to promote recovery. That evidence shows implementing Laura's Law is a reasonable, rational, and economical way to produce positive outcomes for those living with mental illness that are insight deficient, including those who have served their country honorably. Laura's Law gives families like the late Errol Chang's family, as well as our law enforcement officers, the option of preventing confrontations involving untreated mental illness from ever taking place. The health system's intellectually bankrupt and immoral policies and procedures uses the brutality of the streets to modify their behavior under the cover of the 8 separate grants of civil and criminal immunity from prosecution in the violence-producing Lanterman-Petrus Short Act and HIPAA. Persons living with mental illness who are insight deficient need Laura's Law, need the incentive provided by the Laura's Law to help them truly recover because it provides access to treatment based on their need, not on the threat untreated mental illness presents. The 10 deaths and serious injuries that the health system's policies and procedures have produced in the last 10 years won't go away. Give Errol Chang's family members some hope that his death will help persons living with mental illness who are insight deficient and their families recover by voting to implement Laura's Law like the Orange County Board of Supervisors did unanimously last Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Therese Dyer.
Good morning, County Supervisors. Today I want to present to you 4 pieces of evidence regarding my fraud case that has never been investigated since today. Letter from Mark Forkin, letter from Attorney General Lundgren, letter from response to Tom Leonard's letter to the editor that was never published, a list of my $1 million assets where I never received part of my community property behind closed doors. This one is for Dear Mrs. Dyer, on January 5th, 1998, Judge Judith Klosowski began her term as presiding judge. I have forwarded your letter to her for further action. Never heard from her. It's a letter from Attorney General Lundgren. Dear Ms. Dyer, thank you for your letter to Attorney General Dan Lundgren regarding your request for an investigation of your divorce. California law gives discretionary or authority to a locally elected prosecutor in filling criminal actions. The decision whether or not to file calls for consideration of the prospects of obtaining a conviction against a particular defendant. In making that decision, the district attorney must evaluate the likelihood that a jury, after weighing all the conflicting evidence could find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. We understand it is not uncommon for members of the public to differ with the district attorney on the question of whether the filing of criminal charges is warranted. However, that decision rests with the locally elected official responsible for each decision in the district attorney. The Attorney General's intervention is appropriate only when there is a demonstrated conflict of interest, which would disqualify the district attorney from a particular case. Also, if there is an obvious abuse of the district attorney's legal discretion in the decision whether to file a criminal charge, to the Attorney General may intervene. The fact that an incident has created strong feelings within the community does not mandate basis for intervention by the Attorney General, especially since the district attorney is the official elected by the people of the county to make procedural decisions, including those which may be controversial.
Thank you. Okay, we have to wrap up and move to our next speaker now. Thank you, Ms. Dyer. The next speaker is Roger Medler.
Yes, good morning. I don't see why you can't take a couple of minutes and help Mrs. Dyer out. Anyway, it is unfortunate that you couldn't help me with assistance of violations of the City of Pacifica regarding the lack of permits for CV tire brake. Because of your lack of assistance, I found myself in a restraining order that was conspired by the CEO and the city elected official, city council member. And I have reason to believe that because of they perjured themselves, and I'm looking into the matter further. So we'd like to have some help if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other speakers in public comment? I don't have any further cards, so we'll move on to set the agenda.
I'll make a motion to set the agenda and to approve the consent agenda items. I'm sorry.
I'd like to remove item 33 and put on regular.
Okay, I will move to set the agenda and approve the consent items other than item number 33, which is to be moved to the regular agenda.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we'll move to presentations and awards. So we'll start by taking a moment to recognize Mills Peninsula Health Services, who really stepped in and helped the county in a substantial way when our morgue was being renovated. Our coroner looked to Mills Peninsula, and they very generously let us use their facilities for 4 months without cost. And we'd like to present to Mills Peninsula this resolution and in appreciation for their assistance. If I'll move the approval of the resolution.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I believe Mr. Folkot is he here? Yes, he's going to. In Mills Peninsula, they could join us here in the front.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Good morning, Mr. Malpe, Mr. Byers. We started our remodel process back in September of last year, and like you said, we were looking for a home to relocate our pathology lab. And we contacted Mills Peninsula and spoke to one of the vice presidents there, and we had an answer within 5 minutes, and it was yes. And that just shows the great leadership that Mills Peninsula has and their support to the community. And they put us in touch with Angela Davis and her staff, and they were relocated some of their stuff so they could accommodate us over the next 4 months, and they were great partners. And on behalf of my staff and the county, I greatly appreciate your assistance. Thanks.
Hi, good morning. I want to say we had a great working relationship with Robert and his team. They were wonderful to have at our new facility we have over in Burlingame, and glad that we could accommodate and support the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you again. It's great to have such community partners that can lend a hand like that. So we'll move on now to a proclamation on Asthma Awareness Month. Supervisor Groom.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're going to, I'm going to ask for approval of a proclamation declaring May as Asthma Awareness Month.
So moved.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So thank you. Over 11% of children in San Mateo County have been diagnosed with asthma, and over 13% of the population has been diagnosed with asthma. Disparities continue to exist, sadly. Latinos are almost twice as likely as Caucasians to visit an emergency department with asthma-related healthcare problems, and African Americans are over 4 times as likely as Caucasians to visit an emergency department. The county has a number of programs dealing with asthma. They include our healthy housing programs, our healthy services SCAMP program, policies that reduce the impact of second and third-hand smoking, observance of Spare the Air days, congestion relief solutions, and improving access to preventative health care. So I would now like to introduce Dr. Anand Chabra from our own health system and Karen Licavoli-Farnkoff with Breathe California to receive this proclamation on behalf of the Asthma Coalition.
Good morning, President Pine, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. Thank you for this opportunity again to highlight the importance of asthma in San Mateo County. As Supervisor Groom said, we have a large number of children affected by it, about 17,000 children in the county. And in addition, we have about 75,000 adults in San Mateo County affected by asthma. And as you just heard, disparities continue to be a significant issue. So the Family Health Services Division of the health system is pleased to work with the Asthma Coalition and the Tobacco Education Coalition to address asthma in the community. Tobacco smoke exposure and air pollution continue to be significant factors in asthma exacerbations in clients. Our asthma home visiting program, which we call SCAMP, works with families to control asthma with both medical and environmental approaches. And as you also heard, we work with environmental health to address healthy housing. But more recently, we have been very pleased to work more on asthma prevention. And we have Catherine Perdiguera, who's a new public health nurse, who's working on this effort, and Dr. Hannah de los Santos, a physician, also working with us on a new grant funded through First Five, San Mateo County. And as part of this, we've been very happy to partner with Breathe California on this asthma prevention effort. And so now I'd like to introduce Karen Licavoli, who I think many of you know, Vice President of Program Development at Breathe California, and more importantly, Chair of the San Mateo County Asthma Coalition. And she'll talk about a recent survey of providers who serve low-income children with asthma. Thank you.
Good morning, supervisors. And I'm going to sneak a little bit about information about tobacco. As you know, I'm also the chair of the San Mateo County Tobacco Education Coalition. So the survey was conducted by the San Mateo County Asthma Coalition. It was to assess healthcare providers' perceptions on barriers to and access to care for their asthma patients. This assessment was divided into 3 sections: access to medical care, coordination of the continuum of asthma care, and impacts on environment and housing on health outcomes. So the survey was conducted of various providers. We had 56 response from providers throughout the county. Under access to asthma medical care, nearly half the respondents stated that the fear regarding immigrant status was a barrier to asthma care. Over half of them also indicated that they felt the lack of adequate health insurance and financial cost of the medical care. Even more than that, up to 70% of them felt that transportation was a barrier to access to care. More than 75% of respondents also indicated that literacy was a barrier to accessing asthma care. So clearly, based on the statistics that Supervisor Groom talked about around the health disparities, but also around the ability to address the issue of immigrant status, transportation, educational attainment will lead to better jobs and access to health care coverage that will make real linkages to accessing the health care system and improving overall health outcomes. So all these issues are connected by some of the larger issues that we face in our communities. Under coordinating continuum of care, nearly half of those respondents felt that clinicians and medical offices and coordination between the families was a barrier, as well as the coordination between clinicians and referral programs. Again, in this case, the communication between healthcare providers, social service providers, child care providers, and families continue to need improvements to close the gaps, to increase access, and also improve coordinated management to improve outcomes. And as mentioned previously, we have a grant funded by First Five, where we're a subcontract to the Family Health Services, and the impetus behind this grant is to build sustainability amongst providers to do exactly what some of these issues are, which is to close the gaps. Our particular component is to work with child care providers, so that if you have the clinicians, you have child care providers, and you have families, they're all connected. They all have the same information. They know how to they all have the same information. They also know where they need to interface and where they can get the best referrals and care in their particular situation. So right now, Breathe California, we've trained over 70 child care providers. We've had 11 trainings so far, and we've also, as again, the statistics show that asthma is high in the Latino community. We've mobilized in the Latino community by doing outreach through TV and radio, and we also will be working in the clinics. The last piece of this is the impact on environment and housing on health outcomes. Over 75% of those responded believe that the lack of access to safe and affordable housing is a barrier, along with even greater percent, 85% of those respondents felt that the inability to address environmental triggers in the community was a barrier. So what I wanted to say is, since I know that you're also considering smoke-free multi-unit housing, and these comments were unsolicited from our respondents, and they were primarily about secondhand smoke, which was patients live in rental apartments with poorly maintained housing interiors as well as exteriors, lack of heat, and smokers in the environment. They mentioned all the different issues. The next person talked about tenants being exposed to mold and smoking neighbors, and landlords not doing anything about it. They talk about the lack of adequate laws protecting residents for secondhand smoke. And then most of the families living in apartment dwellings and neighborhood cigarette smoke exposure is a big problem. So again, these are unsolicited comments from healthcare providers and their perceptions about just one piece of the healthy housing component. So under impact of housing, providing affordable, healthy housing will alleviate a huge burden of exposure and begin to lighten the load of those who are already suffering from other environmental burdens in the community and on the job. In conclusion, affordable housing, educational attainment, and transportation were identified as presenting the largest barrier to access to care and positive health outcomes. In addition, making improvements to our infrastructure and linkages in our healthcare and social service systems will also improve health outcomes. Addressing these factors in this county will not only improve our asthma outcomes, but also the other chronic diseases like obesity and diabetes. So as I mentioned, these are larger root causes that are linked to our community and many of the chronic diseases that people face. And it's an important that if you're dealing with one chronic disease, by default, you will deal with all chronic diseases. So you actually get a lot of bang for your buck if you start from that position. So the time is now to tackle the health equity issues in San Mateo County. We have the research, we have the epi studies that we need. Now we need to come together as a community to address the root causes and the poor health outcomes and make this a healthier community for everybody. Because any of these issues that will affect the chronic diseases of those low income, people of color communities it'll lift the entire community, and we'll have a healthier San Mateo. So I think we're on the right track. I know we have a lot of support. We have social, political, and we just need more economic support on this issue. I want to thank you very much for your time and attention and making this Asthma Awareness Month. And I appreciate you listening to about our study, our survey today. So thank you very much. Yes.
Karen, I have a quick question regarding transportation. Can you drill down further in your survey to find out where exactly people are living that need to get the service and where the service is, to see what kind of connectivity there could be in transportation? Because we're always refining our service plan with Samtrans. I mean, obviously the train just does what the train does, but we have a lot of different routes with our buses, and I'd just be curious. I mean, we've sort of made an effort at our new clinic to make sure the bus runs close to that. We look at our hospital. It'd be helpful if there is a way to drill down, because and get that information to Carol or myself. We both sit on Samtrans to make sure we can work a little bit harder on some of that connectivity for patients that aren't getting to the services they need. If that's one of the, it sounded like that was one of the four major issues,
Right.
and that's something where a lot of us sit on different agencies, and we hopefully could be a little more helpful there.
So Kat, the public health nurse who put that survey together, is that data available on that level?
So maybe in the future to drill down a little bit on the transportation
Well,
side
now that
for
we
us?
know what the larger issues are, we can actually do that. And so I know the county's working really hard on affordable housing issues. So I think that we can also gather that information. And thank you very much. And we will definitely put that on our radar screen to get that information.
And we have a good connection with those Child Health and Disability Program providers, and so we can follow up with them and just ask them specifically about the transportation issues.
Great, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Mr. President, could I ask a question? First of all, thank you for your work. In our family, we have 3 people who have asthma, and I was curious, for the little kids, are there programs in San Mateo County that I guess teach them when an attack comes on what they should do or what they shouldn't do?
A lot of that really is left at the level of the primary care provider, or if they have a specialist, an allergist or a pulmonologist, that may happen with the specialty clinic. And there definitely are asthma educators in a lot of those settings. But I think the reality is it doesn't happen all the time. And so we try to do that with the SCAM program with kids who've been in the hospital multiple times, but it's probably something that could be more broadly available.
And we are addressing that through the grant through First Five. We are doing a number of trainings with parents. We have the child care piece, but we also need to have the parent piece. We also want them to have that same information. So the parent piece is designed for them to understand the signs and symptoms and what the triggers are, and most importantly, to be able to mitigate triggers in the home so that they will, so that it is a huge prevention piece, but they also learn about the signs and symptoms of a potential asthma episode coming on too. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
presentation.
I'd like to just add one more thank you to Anon and to Karen, but especially to Karen, who does work statewide through Breathe California, and the work that she does with the Air District around and to help with these kind of issues. And thank you very much for all you do.
Okay, very good. We have 2 presentations, but I missed Marty Fox's comment card on an earlier item. So Marty, if you still want to make a point, this would be the time to do that.
Good morning again, President Pine, honorable members of the board, my fellow veteran Supervisor Slocum and Mr. Balpe, and County Council Mr. Byers. Thank you again for your service to the county. Thanks also goes to Mills Peninsula Health System for providing people with a nearby facility that could handle situations like Errol Chang's family ran into. They took particular comfort in knowing that they didn't have to go to Santa Clara County or San Francisco, and they had their loved one nearby. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is a presentation on the Center for Continuous Process Improvement from the County Manager's Office. Raina.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. I'm pleased to be here today to give you an update on our progress with the Center for Continuous Process Improvement. I'm here with Praveen Singh with Hansei Consulting and our principal analyst, Heather Ledesma, to do the presentation today. And this is a follow-up from the February board meeting when we had done the mid-year budget update to the board and had an amendment to the Hansei contract. And we were asked to come back and report to you progress that has been made since then. So we had started down this lean path a couple of years ago. It was an emerging management practice and something that the medical center had begun to do around doing Kaizen events and process improvement events. So we've chosen to adopt lean as a countywide best practice. Get to the presentation here. And it is one skill that we're growing as part of our growing our culture of performance, along with other skills for our managers and supervisors, like essential supervisory skills and benchmarking and evaluation. So it is has been a journey for us, and we've done a few events already as pilots. And this year we've taken on 4 events, and I'll hand it in a minute to Praveen to talk about the 4 that we're taking on this year. And as you've heard from the health system, there have been many successes around lean efforts with the health system, and we're trying to emulate that with the rest of the county. It is very much a team-based approach where we bring together supervisors and managers and people that actually do the work and people who don't know anything about the process to problem solve and actually come up with solutions that they can implement on their own. And the results have been very positive for us as well. We've taken a look at contracts in the county, our contracts processes, our purchasing processes, and a number of other department processes that we've improved over the last couple of years. And the results are mainly in 3 areas. So increased efficiency, so reducing wait times and the number of days that we're actually touching and processing and or over-processing transactions. We're also seeing increases in customer satisfaction because this is to benefit our clients and our customers. And the last is probably the most important, is employee engagement, because involving staff that actually do the work to do their own problem solving and put together solutions that they can implement and track on their own has been, I think, the most positive results from this effort. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Praveen. I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank our steering committee members. We have Donna Valancourt, our HR director, Al David and Ileana Rodriguez from HSA, Candy Clarno from ISD, and Shrija Srinivasan from the health system that are on our steering committee.
Thank you, Reina. Honorable members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. My name is Praveen Singh. As Reina introduced, I'm from Hansei Consulting. So we have been working with the Center for Continuous Process Improvement over the last 6 to 7 months. And in addition to developing some online training that staff can do at their own time and pace, we've also been working on 2 projects that we recently wrapped up. The first one is for the Human Services Agency. It's related to how updates to family circumstances get handled by the Human Services Agency. So what you see on the screen, it's sort of not very clear, but it gives you an idea of what the current process looks like. The team consisted of about 8 to 10 people from Human Services Agency, and we spent some time mapping out what the current process is when a client submits a change to their circumstances, whether that be that they had a child or they lost their job. They could have walked in with their update, they could have mailed it in, emailed, or faxed. So some of the things that we came across, first of all, today it takes an average of approximately 49 days for changes to get done for that family. We also noticed that there are many different handoffs in this process. So Taking a look at the image here, you might not be able to see, but it ranges from handoff from the greeter at different office locations at HSA to public service specialist to additional office support staff, and then finally making it its way to the benefits analyst that can actually make the change to the client's case. And then finally, for one reason or another, over the course of time, additional steps have been added to the process it was a perfect time and opportunity to take a look and remove those if they were not critical to what was being done. So the outcome, a very, very simple process. Basically, a lot of unnecessary steps removed. The team did an amazing job of basically taking out all the waste from the current process and designing something that was very simple. So at this point, we are looking at a new target average processing time of 3 days. Pretty significant difference. So how did we achieve that? Well, a couple of different areas. So first was a resolution at first contact. Rather than handing things over from one person to another, having staff up front at the different offices or straight away when mail comes in, the information going directly to the benefits analyst so that they can update the client's information right away and update their benefits so the client is not waiting. Similarly, on the phone, as they're interfacing with the client on the phone in the call center, going ahead and making the changes necessary rather than creating additional tasks that would be handed over to additional people and then finally making its way to getting updated. They're also taking a look at their work model, how work is assigned and how work is distributed, making sure that it is optimal so that staff are focusing on the right things. So over time, they, as new systems got implemented, the focus shifted a little bit from being case-based, family-based, to getting to tasks. How many tasks are being done? How much work am I doing so that I'm accountable for my job and whatnot? Again, for great reasons, but now they're shifting the focus back to the family. So essentially shifting from quantity back to quality for the client. And then finally, better use of technology. They have some amazing technology already in place that they have implemented over the course of several years. So better utilization of existing technology. Right now, they have many different manual logs going on from initial level, greeter level, all the way to the benefits analyst. So they're exploring using systematic reports rather than employees spending their time keeping manual logs. And then finally, better use of document management systems, again, already in place. So better training of staff and then using barcoding technology so that client's information goes right away to where it needs to go so that the client is not waiting for a long period of time before their benefits get updated. The second project is the Employee Onboarding Offboarding Project for San Mateo County. Another image, this was another team that mapped out what onboarding today looks like in San Mateo County. Not too bad. Different departments had different things going on. Some had internal processes for onboarding employees. So what we took a look at what was working well in different departments and found out that today, while there's some tools around for hiring managers, there really isn't a toolkit or onboarding guide for hiring managers to follow when they're thinking of hiring new employees. Also, from a new employee perspective, they did not know what to expect when they're starting. A lot of information gets provided to them on day one. So nothing really other than initial sort of a quick phone conversation with their new supervisor or manager happens before they start. And then, of course, there's research around this that shows that this could ultimately impact or might be already impacting the employee's engagement and obviously then the productivity. So the result, a new onboarding program for new hires in San Mateo County. How is this going to happen? So first of all, the team is developing a onboarding guide for hiring managers. It's going to be workflow based. It'll have checklists for different things like office space requirements, technology requirements, all the miscellaneous things that come with hiring a new employee that'll help hiring managers get the new employee started much more efficiently. And then more importantly, guidelines on what to do on sort of the first day, the first week, things to keep in mind for the first month and then even the full year. So onboarding we consider to be a year-long process, and so that's what the team is keeping in mind when designing this. And then from the new employees' perspective, they're going to get much more information upfront. So the offer letter will have a link to a new employee welcome website. This website will have information on the county, maybe some videos, maybe a video from Mr. Mulby as well that'll welcome new employees, and showcase different areas of the county, what the county does in the different departments, information on benefits so they can read upfront before they start on what their benefits are, and then the different policies that we have employees signing on day one, so they can read that upfront, and if appropriate they can sign beforehand online. This will also help simplify the policy acknowledgement process. We have ongoing upkeep and maintenance of that, I know is an issue as well. And then finally, a buddy program. A buddy that the team is looking at would be a non-supervising peer that might help the new employee get acquainted with the county's processes, ask or answer general questions that the employee might have that doesn't necessarily need an answer from the supervisor. So those are some of the things that they're looking at to build the new onboarding program. And so now I'm going to hand over to Heather to talk about the upcoming projects.
Good morning, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Byers. My name is Heather Ledesma. I'm the principal analyst, one of the principal analysts in the county manager's office. And I'm working with Raina and Hansei Consulting and county departments on continuous process improvement projects. So Praveen talked about the ones that we are currently working on, and what I'm going to do is talk about kind of where we're going next. We have some upcoming projects in the next couple of months, the first of which is working on the agenda process for your Board of Supervisors meetings, trying to streamline the process from the beginning when the departments are preparing agenda items all the way through getting it onto the agenda and then getting it to you in a timely manner so that you can do all your review and be prepared before the board meetings. So that's going to be happening actually in the next couple of weeks. And then the goal obviously is on that one just to streamline everything, make it an efficient process, and to make sure that we're not having to bump agenda items to the next board agenda because of hangups in the system. So that's one that we're working on in the next couple of weeks. And then after that, we're going to focus on the assessment appeals process, trying to find efficiencies in there with the outline goal of being to streamline it, make it efficient, and to provide quality customer service. And then the ongoing goals of the Center for Continuous Process Improvement, we want to continue growing the culture of process improvement, so continuing to train additional county staff on how to go through these processes that Praveen talked about, doing the process maps, the current state, future state. We also, in the next month or so, are going to be piloting some enhanced training on lean to a division within the Human Services Agency so that they can start running their own process improvement projects, and so that we can simultaneously have these things happening throughout the county and not just relying on Hansei Consulting to help us through the projects. And then we'll be working with other county departments to identify future projects that we can work on, and to make it more transparent to the public about what we're doing. We are creating a dashboard that will be accessible on the landing page for the county that you see in front of you. So it'll be accessible with the other information like the Shared Vision 2025, Measure A, and safety net services. So we're working on that right now. We're hoping to have that up and live very soon. So that's the goal for the Center for Continuous Process Improvement. So that's the end of our presentation, and we're ready to take any questions that you might have.
Questions, Supervisor Tisky?
Just a quick question on the one for the agenda review process. In doing that, are you including some of the staff, the board staff members?
Yes.
Oh, you are, good.
We are.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
and
great.
we've already started interviews of them and all
Perfect.
of that. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a very important
Great.
piece of it.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, Can I ask a
Mr.
question?
Slocum.
Just a second here. Thank you. I was just curious. I think Praveen showed a slide that showed the previous process was 49 days for the intake part,
Yes.
and then it was going down to 3 days. Is that right?
So just one minor difference. It's not intake, it's continuing cases for clients. So updates to continuing cases rather than intake of new cases.
Okay. So, well, let me just ask it this way. Does it take 3 days for a client to get the benefit?
It will take 3 days for the information to be updated in their system, which is called CalWIN. And then respectively, I believe it's effective as of that date. If they need to use the benefit, they may get the paperwork, the letter and whatnot, notice of action in the mail, depending on the mail delivery system.
So it could take 3 days or longer.
Well, including the mail time, but the benefit would get updated within 3 days. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Through the President, to Mr. Slocum, these are continuing benefits. So the major point is that they don't lose a benefit someplace along the way by being able to make these quick turnarounds.
I got it. Thank you.
That is the
That helps.
clarification. They're more renewals of benefits.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. And thank you very much for your work. I think the lean process, or we call it something else now. What's it called at the hospital? Leap. Is very important, and I look forward to its spread throughout the departments, and especially with the assessment appeals process, which I know firsthand from my experience as assessor is it's intensive. Let's just put it that way. So I look forward to that, and certainly anything that can make the agenda process faster, better, easier is welcomed also. So thank you, Raina. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Praveen, for your work. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Well, we do have one comment, or one speaker, Marty Fox.
Thank you again, President Pine, members of the board. And thank you, Mr. Maltby, especially for having the RFP issued for Veterans Needs Assessment on Tuesday, May 6th. Veterans are entitled to, and family members are entitled to a wide range of federal, state, and local government benefits, and they are eligible for a number of private sector benefits. It is a highly complex and complicated situation, especially for young women with children and men returning from Afghanistan and Iraq. And if there is a way that the system could avail itself of what they've already done in HSA, I'm sure it would be an improvement. Please consider it. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to echo some of the comments made already about how exciting this initiative is, and how much potential it has. When you look at improving that benefit change process from 49 days to 3 days, that's a big deal. And it seems so much of what we do is really people and paper intensive. And anytime we can look at a system afresh, a process afresh, there's likely to be efficiencies. So I have very high hopes for this process, and I'm really pleased to see us focusing on it. Our next presentation concerns the county sustainability initiatives. So this is very timely in light of recent news. I think all have read about the White House's recent report on climate change and how the climate is changing now and how severe it is. We've also heard about the melting of some of the ice sheets in West Antarctica. So this is front and center, the issue of climate change, and every organization has an obligation to address it. So I think this is a very timely presentation. I'll turn over to you, Ms. Jensen.
Good morning, President Pine, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, and Mr. Byers. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce to you our sustainability staff in the County Manager's Office. Cara Batista and Stephen Stolte will be giving you an update on their recent work on sustainability, and after they conclude their presentation, I will give you an update on our plans for next year.
President Pine, honorable members of the board, Mr. Maltby and Mr. Byers, good morning. So in 2012, your board adopted the Climate Action Plan for Government Operations, which sets a goal of a 15% reduction in our greenhouse gas emissions from our baseline by the year 2020. And the sources of our emissions are from 3 categories: energy, transportation, and solid waste. Under energy, buildings and facilities are the biggest contributor to our overall emissions. In 2013, we saw a decrease in emissions, mostly due to implementation of the Strategic Energy Master Plan. The second category is transportation, and in 2013, we saw an increase in our emissions. You see the green bar represents employee commutes. This is our second biggest source of emissions, and much of that was due to an increase in the number of employees working for the county and a small increase in the percent who have been driving alone to work. The red bar represents our vehicle fleet and mobile equipment, and you can see it's on a steady kind of downward trend. They have been working to increase the number of hybrid vehicles as well as the fuel efficiency of the fleet, so that's a good sign. And in solid waste, this is a very small component of our overall emissions. There's an apparent increase in 2013, but this is likely just due to better data being gathered from more facilities. Overall, the county is having a higher diversion rate with more recycling and composting. And to give you the big picture of our progress, this is the first year that we've been implementing the Climate Action Plan. We are on a downward trend and will continue to keep an eye on employee commutes in particular in this current year. Now I'll move on to another program. This is our work on energy efficiency. The county is part of the Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN, which is a collaboration of all 9 counties and the Association of Bay Area Governments working together on energy issues. And we offer 4 programs this year through 2014, and I'll go over each. Our single-family program offers rebates to homeowners who make energy efficiency upgrades. You can see some of the measures there that are eligible for rebates. There are 2 different paths they can choose from: the home upgrade or advanced home upgrade, and rebates range from $1,000 to $4,500. We've had 52 projects reserve or undergo their energy efficiency upgrades, and are currently focusing on recruiting more contractors to participate in this program. Our multifamily program offers rebates to property owners. It's designed to help them save 10% of their building's energy, and offers them $750 times the number of units in their building as the rebate amount. We had initially set a goal of 500 units reserving rebates and have really exceeded that. The program's been tremendously successful. We've more than doubled our goal, and the BayREN is working on requesting additional funding for this very popular program. Our Codes and Standards program is intended to help local governments achieve greater energy savings by helping with code compliance. We are working to roll out some new trainings for building departments throughout the Bay Area about the upcoming changes in the Title 24 Energy Code this summer. We also share best practices at regional forums. We're holding one tomorrow on zero net energy and progress towards that. And finally, in energy efficiency, we offer a couple of different financing programs. Commercial PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy, is a financing option for commercial and multifamily property owners. They can do renewable energy projects, water conservation, or energy efficiency work using that financing option. And our multifamily program offers a capital advance pilot program to help reduce interest rates on loans. And I'll hand it over to Stephen now to talk about some of our other work.
Excuse me, Carla, I think we may have a question.
Just a quick question on this financing and the rebates. Is this strictly an unincorporated area, or is this countywide?
Countywide.
Oh, excellent. Great. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board, President Pine, Mr. Maltby, and Mr. Byers. First, I'd like to talk about water conservation at our county facilities today. As you may know, California is in its third year of severe drought, with 2013 being the driest on record for many areas since 1850 when California first became a state. The governor has also declared a state of emergency. And while the county is not a water provider or utility, we are a water consumer, especially in our largest health and detention facilities. Now we have an opportunity to act and to demonstrate leadership to the public while reducing our own water use. In 2012, the county completed an energy and water audit of our 11 largest buildings as part of the Strategic Energy Master Plan. That plan seeks to reduce our water use by 10% by 2020. Out of those audits, the main recommendation was fixture replacements, and the county has started replacing fixtures, but our largest facilities remain to be done. We've also been promoting water conservation in other areas, such as our landscaping system. We recently made that more efficient. We also promote low impact development countywide. So that type of development recharges the water table and prevents more stormwater runoff. So our estimate for the remaining fixture work is that it would require about $2.9 million, and that would have a payback based on current water rates of about 15 years. Now, the current plan is to phase in these projects in the 5-year capital improvement plan unless otherwise directed by your board. And also, in addition to fixture replacements, the audits identified other water savings projects, and we're currently analyzing the costs and payback of those options, and we plan to provide recommendations to your board at the budget hearings in June of 2015. So with that quick snapshot of water conservation, let's move on to the next topic, which is the new sustainability dashboard. As county departments begin tracking their progress on performance metrics related to the budget, we've compiled many of the sustainability-related metrics under one new sustainability dashboard. So this is a snapshot of what you would see online. At the top, you can see we're tracking our progress on Energy Upgrade California programs that Kara talked about earlier. In the middle, you see we're tracking progress on the Climate Action Plan for Government Operations, and you'll find other sustainability indicators there at the bottom. Once the performance metrics go live for departments and public, we will also make this dashboard public, and it will be available online. So we will continue to develop these dashboards, but just to give you an example of one that we've built out in greater detail for 2013, if I was to click on the last metric there in the middle for the Climate Action Plan progress in 2013, this is what I would see. Oops. So you can see that we have our goal there listed. It's to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by about 5,800 metric tons by 2020, and we're making progress on that goal. We're also able to visualize the data in creative ways, and at the bottom you can see we've divvied up the emissions by their source, whether it's employee commute, our buildings and facilities, or our vehicle fleet. So this metric, as well as all the other sustainability metrics, will be housed under the dashboard, and it provides a snapshot of the county's progress towards its goals. Ultimately, we think that this dashboard will be a powerful tool in demonstrating our commitment to sustainability.
Thank you, Stephen. So as you can see, Kara and Stephen have been involved in a number of different projects in a variety of areas, and there's a lot of work left to be done. So I'm pleased to announce that the county manager, as part of his budget proposal to your board for fiscal year 14-15, will be proposing an Office of Sustainability, which would be part of the county manager's office. This office would have a variety of assignments, one of which would be coordinating the countywide multi-departmental stormwater initiatives that we have. In addition, we would want to track the costs of these unfunded mandates that have been established by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. So stormwater would be a very important part of the new Office of Sustainability's assignment. They would also continue to work on updating our climate action plan, and actually we would incorporate the community alternatives program into our Office of Sustainability, because as you saw, Kara pointed out that over 40% of our county generated greenhouse gas emissions come from commuting. In addition, the office would work on our 2 grant proposals, regional grant proposals, Connect Redwood City through the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, and then the Energy Upgrade Program that's funded by the state PUC. And finally, because we're proposing to have a total of 6 staff, Kara and Stephen, and also Planning Director Jim Eggemeyer has graciously agreed to come on special assignment to the County Manager's Office to lead this new office. We would have 6 total staff. We would probably have the time and the bandwidth to work on additional green initiatives in the county. So we're very pleased to bring this forward to your board for consideration. With that, my presentation is concluded, and Stephen, Karen, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Becky. Questions from the board?
I just have one question. In the unincorporated areas, there aren't storm drains. They generally are like, essentially, it comes off the road onto like little ditches and then ends up into creeks. How do we capture that storm water, and how do we make sure that there's not trash in it? And I'm sure there's other products, mostly from vehicles.
So how do we? So not just storm drains, but creeks and waters.
Right, exactly. Because it.
You know, I might. Is Jim Porter here? He has a variety of programs within Public Works, and I think he could best address that.
Thank you. Through the President. On the coast side, mostly in unincorporated areas, we're implementing low-impact development type of improvements, which are basically grassy swales. Now, you mentioned correctly that a lot of our roadsides just drain into ditches that turn into grassy swales because it just tends to grow grass out there. But we need to capture that trash at certain locations. So, as mentioned previously, the municipal regional permit that the Regional Water Quality Control Board has asked us to implement, actually has required us to implement, requires us to catch quite a bit of trash and implement more low-impact development techniques on the coast side. So that's what we're doing, and particularly in the ASBS, the Area of Special Biological Significance between really Princeton and Montara. We've done a lot of pilot projects in that area to catch a lot of the trash and stormwater before it gets to the ocean and keep the water as clean as possible in there.
Like at Emerald Hills, the ditches are essentially asphalted, so will you eventually have to take that out and do bioswales, or is it not a problem there?
So what we're looking at in those areas is really whether it's cost effective to go with trash capture devices at those inlets where the ditches go in, or look at a larger detention device, a trash capture device that captures more of a watershed, to take a watershed approach to that. So rather than implementing all these little devices all over these inlets, catch it down at a bigger pipe. We're going through cost-benefit analysis on those, as well as long-term costs for maintenance. So that's yet to come. We're just really implementing those types of measures right now.
Thanks.
Sure.
Mr. President. Mr. Porter, follow up to Supervisor Horsley's questions. Does that same sort of situation exist in North Fair Oaks where the water drains into those, I don't know what you call them. Yeah. Or is it different or more complex or totally different?
So through the President, it does. North Fair Oaks is a more urban county pocket where you have traditional sidewalk, curb and gutter type situations. In those cases, we are looking at trash capture devices in the inlets. We've piloted quite a few of those there. In that area, I'm sure you're aware, we have no parking zones for street sweeping. One of the approaches for trash capture is obviously street sweeping, but we need to get to the curb to be able to capture that trash because that's where it all goes. So in North Fair Oaks, we have restricted parking that helps us capture that trash. And we've got a pretty big project coming up on Middlefield Road where we'll be undergrounding the utilities and reconstructing that road. And as part of that, I'm sure you will see something along the lines of what's called green streets. And what that is really low-impact development incorporated into retrofitted streets. So I'm not sure if you've heard this, but there's a term called rain gardens, where you'll see at the curb bump outs, you put in a bunch of landscaping and depress that area. So the stormwater and the trash runs into that area and is able to filter through the vegetation before it actually gets out to the bay. Those areas also act to capture trash because the vegetation is great at grabbing wrappers and things like that. The maintenance is pretty high, but that's where low-impact development and rehabilitation of urban streets is really headed based upon a lot of the Clean Water Act requirements.
Thank you.
Sure.
Supervisor Groom.
Ms. Jensen, how closely does the sustainability staff work with ABAG and the Air Quality District and the MTC as they're doing a lot of these programs also in the 9-county areas?
We have received some grant funding from all of those agencies, and we've worked with them on those grant projects. But due to the limited resources we've had in the past, we haven't been able to work as closely as we'd like. I think that's one of the big opportunities of this new office. We're proposing 6 staff, a director, Kara and Stephen, a fellow, and also someone dedicated to just to the stormwater project, plus the community alternative staff. So I think that's something we certainly can follow up on.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple questions. Going back to the original goal on the very first slide, could you repeat what that is? What the goal is?
So the goal for our climate action plan for government operations is to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 15% from our baseline year, which is 2005, by the year 2020.
Okay, and so does that exceed? I understand under AB 32, the whole state needs to be at 1990 levels by 2020, if I remember correctly. So does our goal exceed that?
Our goal is it's in line with the state. We are using a different baseline year because more data is available. But it's very common for cities and counties to use that 15% by 2020.
Okay, and does that meet the AB 32 standard?
It's in line with the state's overall goals.
Okay. On the residential upgrade program, you might have said this, and I might not have heard. Do we have a goal for how many people we're trying to actually adopt the upgrades? I know that's been a hard. We've had a lot more success in the multifamily. It's been tougher with the single family.
The single family program, we had set a goal of between the home upgrade and the advanced home upgrade, 180 total projects. We're a little behind due to a slow start. The program was launched a bit late, but we did receive, we kind of revamped the program recently in February, which we think will make it more attractive going forward, higher rebates amounts, and also a little bit more flexibility in what kinds of measures are eligible. So I think going forward, we're hoping to see greater uptake, but it has been a challenge. It's a big ask to have somebody retrofit their home.
Okay. You know, one thing I guess I may be hopeful for with the new office. And first off, I think it's terrific that we're forming a formal office of sustainability to bring together all these efforts. I mean, I look around the room. Later, we're going to hear from Energy Watch, and Daniel Lee worked for a long time on energy upgrade and all the work that you've done. And I'm glad we're highlighting it today because we've done a lot, but we'll do more when we're in one place and we have a little more resources. But I think always a big challenge with these programs is just the marketing, just getting the word out. And since we're fortunate to be able to put this amount of resources against it, and I really hope the Sustainability Office can do a lot of outreach to the cities and just so that we can again make consumers aware that these things are available. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges. See, I had just two more questions. Maybe these are. One was in this Title 24 code. What type of changes is that going to require?
The code is really ratcheting up some other requirements around energy for new residential additions and alterations. So there's going to be a lot of the state's projected energy savings actually come from what they think will happen through code enforcement. So there's more to learn for departments in terms of the new things to enforce, and also for the architects and builders about what they need to submit to show their energy savings when they're proposing a project. So part of what we're doing, there are a lot of existing trainings about kind of old code versus new code. And what we're proposing is kind of specific trainings for local governments on best practices for how to implement smoothly the enforcement aspect, and what you can do to make your process more simple for people coming to apply at your building department.
Okay, great. And then my last question, maybe for Stephen, is could you tell us a little bit more about what the $2.8 million in water program upgrades entails, or what type of projects?
Yeah, that 2.9 million really focuses on the recommendations that came out of the audits of our 11 biggest facilities. So all of the county center buildings, the McGuire Correctional Facility. I have a whole list
And
here.
what type of actual projects?
It's mainly installing fixture upgrades, like to the sink fixture, and also installing lower flow flush valves in toilets. Actually, the city of Redwood City provided us with 300 aerators that were already installed in county center buildings, and the county's continuing to do that work, but the fixture upgrades were the main thing.
Okay. I think in connection with the budget process, I definitely like to look at whether we can prioritize any of that work. We'll have to obviously weigh it against other capital demands. All right, any further questions from the board? All right, well, again, I want to thank everyone for the update, and it's an important initiative for the county. We'll bring a lot of visibility to what we're doing already, and open opportunities to do a lot more. So I think it's really, really exciting new initiative. Later today at 1:30, we will be opening up bids for the sale of the Circle Star Plaza property. So that will be a little a unique session, which I'm looking forward to. But we'll go on to the rest of our agenda. Supervisor Horsley, why don't we go ahead and take item 33 now?
Oh, thank you, President Pine. Resolution authorizing the park director to execute an eligibility or agreement with the Coastal Commission to accept a $15,000 construction of a public access on Highway 1 at El Granada. I just want to talk a little bit about this. This Highway 1, it's really at Surfers Beach, and I wanted to really highlight the work that was done by one of my staff people. Nicholas Calderon is actually the lead on this project, and he and I were out on the coast, as we oftentimes are, and we were had a group of business owners and residents who were really concerned about the potential failure of Highway 1, and they pointed out that the trail at Surfers Beach, a couple things. First of all, it's significantly eroded, and it's also difficult to get onto the beach. There's a lot of riprap, so it is. A lot of people twist their ankles, actually trying to get onto the beach. In any case, the actual path had a width of about 1.8 feet, and we know from the studies that the bluffs there tend to erode at about 1.5 feet per year. So what we were concerned about, and what we were advised by business owners, and actually one of the guys that's a surfer, Rocky Rayner, said that we really have to worry about this road being undermined and actually losing the road. They were kind of concerned about it this winter, and maybe even next winter too. Well, fortunately, we didn't have a really rough winter. So, in any case, what we did, and actually Nicholas did this. He put together a coalition of both the city of Half Moon Bay, got them to participate in the solution. Essentially, the jurisdiction really is Caltrans at Half Moon Bay, but nevertheless, it affects the residents on the mid-coast, and it affects all of the business on the mid-coast. If that road were to get shut down, if it were to be undermined, we would end up with a one-lane road and having to ferry all that traffic on weekends through residential neighborhoods, and we certainly didn't want to have to deal with that. That would be kind of catastrophic, almost as bad as having the old one. We used to have Double Slide getting shut down. So in any case, we did, and because we really have more, we've got a great public works director with Jim Porter, a great parks department with Marlene Finley, and of course I have Nicholas Calderon, who works constantly and works miracles on these. So he actually went to the city Half Moon Bay, got them to participate financially. We of course have all the expertise. We also work with the Coastal Commission, with Caltrans, with again, like I said, a Department of Public Works, county parks, county planning, and we used an initial design from a local resident, Neil Merrilees, who's also a parks commissioner. So we developed a plan to stabilize the road. It's a revetment and a stairway down onto the beach. Now, it's not, the plan actually calls for you know, we actually, between the city and county, are putting together about a $400,000 to $450,000 doing for the environmental, for the design, for any of the mitigation that we have to take, because there are some wetlands in that area, and it will, in fact, we'll fix that trail. It'll become once again a multimodal trail. And if you go over there on weekends and you see people walking, you can see this particular part of the trail is actually collapsed. So in any case, we actually have now a commitment on the part of the state of California or the Caltrans to actually fix that road. It actually will cost them, out of their budget, probably about $1.5 million. We are, of course, putting up the first $450,000 between us and the city of Half Moon Bay. So I just wanted to thank and call out Nicholas Calderon, of course, Marlene Findlay as well. And the fact that the Coastal Commission is giving us a grant of $15,000 shows that this is a project that is near and dear to the hearts of not only the residents, not only all the residents of both Half Moon Bay, the Mid-Coast, but also the Coastal Commission. It's really important to, this is a branch of the Coastal Trail, and without it, you really have a break. And you have to have people on the, walking on the highway, and we don't want to do that. So, I made Nicholas sit in the audience to listen to this. He thought that I might perhaps needed something. I did not need anything. He has done a fabulous job on this, and he's on the phone. He constantly pressures Caltrans. They initially didn't want to do it, and they kept on saying, "We'll do it in 3 years from now." We're saying, "You lose this road in a couple of years, then we're all in trouble." So he's extremely effective, and I really appreciate the work that he's done. And with that, I will move to approve the resolution authorizing the park director to execute the agreement with the Coastal Commission for the acceptance of the $15,000 for the construction of that public access.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that approves.
You can leave now, Nicholas.
May I take a moment to also
Sure.
say a Nicholas Calderon story?
You may.
This is a little bit of
We
a
all have stories
This is a
with
little
Nicholas.
tangent, but he was a great assistance to me when one day I rushed down here from home and was doing my work.
Oh.
And then I had to go to a meeting, and I realized, I forgot my belt, And I kind of felt a little embarrassed by that. So I said, "Nicholas, I need your belt, man." He generously provided it. So he's a fine man. All right. We will move on now to item number 8, introduction of an ordinance. Did we not take the vote? I'm sorry. We did take it. Okay. Did we miss? Sorry. Excuse me. All right. Well, again, we're going to now hear about our San Mateo Energy Watch program, and the timing is good because I know it ties right into our sustainability initiatives we heard about earlier. So we're really pleased to have the team here, Mr. Porter, Ms. Springer, Ms. Wright. Did we lose Kathy from, I guess, she's going to be right back. This is another program that a lot of hard work goes on behind the scenes, so it's important to kind of bring that forward and get an update.
Thank you, President Pine, members of the board, Mr. Byers. I'd like to introduce some folks that are here that will bail me out if I get into any trouble. We have Kim Springer and Susan Wright. They're both members of the Department of Public Works, and they work directly on the San Mateo County Energy Watch program. Kathy Levezzo will be back. And we also have Sandy Wong, who is the executive director of CCAG. CCAG has been a vital partner in allowing us to implement this program. So thank you very much to CCAG and Sandy for their support on this. So let's just hop right in. The San Mateo County Energy Watch is a result of various agencies getting together and funneling funds to the program so that we can implement various aspects of the program and really act as a liaison between a lot of different agencies that manage rebate programs and are experts in energy conservation with people that need to have these types of techniques implemented. And so this slide basically shows that you've got a lot of sectors that are impacted: commercial, residential, and industrial, and agricultural. And agricultural doesn't really jump out But if you think about it, agriculture uses quite a bit of water, and they're pumping water through pumps. They also have greenhouses, and those greenhouses are lit with quite a bit of lighting. So they become a key partner in implementing the programs, or actually using the programs that we're providing. In terms of funding, the program is funded through a public goods charge that's on your PG&E bill. That then funnels through the CPUC and on to PG&E. And PG&E is a very important partner here that works with our group to help funnel out some money to folks. And it's working. As you can see, since 2010, the energy savings countywide, that's the cities, the counties, residents, businesses, is nearly 200 kilowatt hours, 200 million kilowatt hours, which is quite a few. So in terms of partnership, PG&E and CCAG are the partners in the program, and we manage the implementation of the project through our Recycle Works group, and I've introduced those folks. And what we're really trying to do is get out and help the cities develop their climate action plans and get information to them so they can supply it to their residents, but also provide a marketing tool. I think Supervisor Pine mentioned in the last presentation, we got to get out there and make sure that people know how to avail these services. And that's part of what we do, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. In terms of progress to date, the program has grown over time to hit different sectors. So we've, it's a little hard for me to read, but we've hit a variety of sectors, including government, and a lot that you can see that I'm having trouble reading right now. But they have yielded quite a bit of savings, and we provided quite a bit of rebates to those individuals. This slide does show you the amount of kilowatt hours and kilowatts saved, and also the amount of gas saved, which is in therms. As you notice in 13-14, there's no goal for gas during this fiscal year. And the reason for that is the CPUC and PG&E are working on targeted programs for natural gas reduction. So that's not included in our goals for this year. Next year, we're currently working on a contract is being negotiated between PG&E and CCAG. So once that is implemented, then we'll be able to provide the goals that are available for that year. In terms of coordination efforts, we have a lot of partners that we work with to implement these programs through the different communities. So as you can see, we work with the Office of Education. Schools consume quite a bit of energy. We work with Ecology Action and a variety of folks to go in and not only do the climate action plan, so the surveys, but also offer programs for both commercial and residential users, as well as government, to reduce their consumption of energy and natural gas. Oops, excuse me. So in terms of our support for public agencies, what we're trying to do currently is to get past what we call the low-hanging fruit, which in a lot of cases was lighting retrofits. So, you know, there's been a lot of lighting retrofits done in the cities. Now we got to go a little bit deeper. And the tougher part about going deeper is the return on investment doesn't come as quickly. So when you think about how buildings operate, they use HVAC systems, they use pumping systems. There's quite a bit of electrical that goes into powering a building, and a lot of systems to do that. We're looking at system upgrades, changing out inefficient systems, making sure that those systems are working well together. At the county level, we have our energy manager, Andy Jane, that's done quite a bit of work on our buildings. We want to make sure that all of our partners and all of our city partners are aware of what is available in terms of cutting down energy use in their building. We want to make sure that they understand it's a good investment, because although it is expensive, it pays off, not just in terms of the benefits to the ecology of the planet, but also your bottom line. It does take a while to get some of this back in terms of ROI, but in the long term, you will see savings in your overall operating budgets. And we also want to make sure that we maximize the use of PG&E's program for 0% on-bill financing for folks that can use it. So if you have a large project, if you're a government agency, and you don't have the capital, PG&E offers a program where they'll actually front the costs and you can pay them back through the energy savings at zero interest. So it's a great deal for agencies to be able to do this kind of work. We also support cities with climate action planning. And as you heard earlier, the county has a climate action plan. All the cities have climate action plans. We work with their staff to allow those cities to implement that. And we also support implementation of the recommendations of those climate action plans with our various partners. So just to point out a couple, real estate agents is an interesting collaboration, but we keep talking about marketing. Real estate agents know home buyers, and they're a great source of information for those home buyers. So if we can get out and educate real estate agents on the benefits of implementing these energy-saving practices, those homeowners are likely to implement those practices and pass that on to their friends. So again, we talk about marketing, how to get the word out. Marketing with real estate agents is a great source. Partnering with large towns. So we found that we have four communities with fairly large homes, is what I meant to say. It's Portola Valley, Woodside, Hillsborough, and Atherton. And in looking at energy consumption, these larger homes consume about 4 times more power than what would be an average size home. So it makes sense to partner with these communities that have these larger homes to try to get the word out to their residents, to try to implement these energy saving means so that they reduce their overall energy consumption, and it has an overall benefit to the county. And we offer support for residents, and that is through coordination. There are several programs here. The ones in blue are those implemented by the county manager's office that were discussed earlier. But we also have help for homeowners, both low and moderate income property owners, as well as homeowners associations. And we do that through coordination with our partners. On to schools. We're working closely with the San Mateo County Office of Education to develop energy baselines for their schools. And we've got those energy baselines. So it's kind of like our energy work we do here. We establish that baseline, then we implement techniques to reduce energy, and then we measure that. We're also working with these partners to maximize the use of Prop 39 funding. And Prop 39 funding was the closure of a tax loophole that then generated additional revenue that can be used for energy efficiency programs. So we want to make sure that the schools are aware of these programs and they try to take advantage of that as best as possible. And we talked earlier a little bit about water reduction. We're working with schools on water use. They obviously use a lot of water. They've got a lot of students that use that water. Finally, we also offer local classes and training. PG&E has a great resource in San Francisco, the PG&E Pacific Energy Center, that offers classes to folks. I know Public Works has sent people up to San Francisco to go to these classes. Well, Energy Watch has brought those classes to San Mateo County. In fact, we've hosted them here. That's great for the cities. It's closer. They can send folks. It's great for us because we've got a lot of people that work in this field and are able to get training. So that's a big benefit for folks in this area so that they don't necessarily have to go to San Francisco. They can get this information close. And then marketing and outreach. We've done a good job on the website to make sure that information is available to all the stakeholders so that they're able to find out about these great programs and then call us up and ask us questions. We can work with them and implement the programs that we've talked about. We've got monthly newsletters, so we want to reach out to the building community as well. They're the ones installing all of these systems. We want to make sure that they're very well aware of what the benefits of installing low energy type equipment are. And the benefits to county government, I spoke a bit about that, but it is very good for us to have these experts in our department because we operate a lot of buildings. We talked a little bit about the greenhouse gas emission audits. There's 2 big generators in this county. One is transportation, the other is buildings. And we operate a lot of buildings. That's our second leading cause of greenhouse gas emissions. So to have these experts on staff to work with our energy manager and our facilities folks to maintain and upgrade the buildings so that we have the most energy efficient buildings as possible is quite beneficial to us. So overall, it's been a great partnership for San Mateo County, CCAG, and PG&E, and we're doing our best, and we're going to continue to work with different stakeholders to get the word out to take advantage of this great program. So future efforts for the remainder of this year, this fiscal year, we're looking to identify grant funding for a home energy analyzer. And what that is, it's an online tool that homeowners can go on and input information about their house, and it will help them look at energy use and recommend ways to cut back on that energy use. We're also looking at water conservation efforts. As I mentioned earlier, if you use less water, you're pumping less. So that saves energy. There's a lot of energy that goes into distributing that water. And it's obviously we're in a drought. We want to save water, but we also want to save the amount of energy that we're using to distribute that water. As we move on to the next year, we're going to continue to expand funding for commercial type buildings and schools. We're going to work again on this countywide energy efficiency program, and we're going to promote zero net energy construction, which is becoming more achievable and affordable as we move on. And of course, we're looking forward for the next 10 years. We're going to try to achieve additional funding and try to get our energy savings goals higher so that we continue to reduce our greenhouse gases and hopefully save people money, because we all pay for energy. And I think it's not only good for the planet, but it's also good for our residents here as well. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if I can't answer them, we do have the experts here to do that. Thank you.
Questions from the board?
Just one comment is that we did have, in my office, had PG&E come to our Farm Bureau and work with all of our farmers on the coast side for significant energy savings. So thanks, they did a great job, and it has really paid off. And we might ask you back, Kathy, again.
I had a question. Can you just remind me how we staff this this effort? Because we have it's quite the collaboration of funders and agent and divisions, et cetera. Could you maybe just review that?
Certainly. So the way that it's staffed within the county, within Public Works, is we have a group called Recycle Works,
right,
which handles solid waste recycling efforts. Within that group is our San Mateo Energy Watch group. They're funded through CCAG, basically. We have agreements with CCAG to provide funding. So they're essentially on loan, so to speak, with CCAG to implement those programs. But that's how the funding takes place. CCAG has an agreement with PG&E that supplies funding to CCAG, so we leverage that with our staff.
But in terms of actual, people, if I recall, I know Kim spends some of his time, and I can't remember, Susan, if you're full-time on this. I mean, how many people do we have, just, really, how many? It's about 1.1. Okay.
So it's 1.1 FTE. We also leverage interns that come in and work on this as well.
Okay.
We see a lot of young, very bright faces in the office.
I guess, maybe a question to county manager and to Mr. Porter is, there just seems to be such a synergy between this sustainability office and this effort. And, I don't know if this should be part of the sustainability office. I mean, it's maybe that's already been thought through.
Jim, you want to answer that?
Certainly.
Yeah.
We have thought about that. What we're looking at now is there are other programs that these folks work on that are intertwined with our solid waste effort. So obviously Recycle Works works with our county franchise areas for garbage collection. We also do a lot of AB 939 reporting. So for us to break that out, we have to look at how those duties get divided, or the other option is we bring the whole thing over to the sustainability office and have them responsible for implementing all of the solid waste programs as well as the energy programs. And that does make sense because, believe it or not, there's a lot of greenhouse gases coming from garbage and landfills. So there is a nexus there as well. And I see.
Supervisor Pine, the way we've set up the Office of Sustainability is a one-year pilot project. So the thought was to bring together the programs that are currently pretty much operating out of the County Manager's Office, plus the Community Alternative Program, because that's so closely linked to the Climate Action Plan. If that's a successful model for us, then we will consider pulling other groups together.
Okay, yeah, yeah, we definitely see how that goes. I mean, certainly, I'm sure you'll pull the Energy Watch folks into your team meetings, et cetera, right? I think that would be helpful. Any other comments?
I just think you just want to make sure you're not siloed so that you do communicate, and
Yeah.
and I have every confidence you'll do that.
Yeah, I think Mr. Springer pointed out there's monthly meetings, and we're actually good friends with the CMO's office. I have Nicholas Calderon stories, which I won't share now. But he's a good guy. He's a friend of Public Works.
Did he lend you the tie today?
No, but I'm going to ask him for his tie after this, definitely.
I just want to make a comment. I think this is very valuable, all the work that's being done by the three entities. You know, I think the thing that we talk about all the time here in the county is collaboration. And I do think if down the road, the Sustainability Office thinks that there's a role to fold this all together, I think that would be great. If they don't, because I do know that solid waste issues sometimes it's a big area to tackle. And what I don't want to do is have us overload an area where we're doing some great sustainability and not really doing justice, to that area by sometimes you add too much and then you don't get enough done. So I would like to see after, 6 months or a year, how you think the Sustainability Office is running and whether or not you think you should tackle even more or let them really move with what they're doing here, because this is a great collaboration.
All right, well, I really appreciate you bringing forward that update. I mean, it really is impressive, the number of things that are happening and the number of organizations involved and the multiple funders. And so we're grateful for this work. Appreciate your time. We'll now move to item 8, which is a proposed ordinance.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President and honorable members of the board. This ordinance amendment makes a very, I'll say slight change to the existing ordinance relating to the in-home supportive services, or otherwise known as IHSS Advisory Committee membership. As this board is well aware, the IHSS Advisory Committee plays a very important role. It provides a perspective advice, provides multi-perspective advice, multi-dimensional advice to the Board of Supervisors on the appropriate delivery of IHSS services, and also helps to ensure the dignity and independence of the elderly and disabled consumers of home care. Specifically, by approving this first reading of an ordinance amendment, you will be giving yourself more flexibility with regard to membership on this committee. Currently, under the present ordinance, the IHSS committee is to contain, and I quote, one member of the Board of Supervisors, unquote. This amendment would modify that language by stating that one IHSS member may be quote, one member of the Board of Supervisors of the County of San Mateo, or its appointee. So with this amendment, you could still, in fact, appoint a board member, or alternatively, you could increase public participation by adding another member of the public as your appointee. And just in terms of giving you some perspective, we did survey several counties in the Bay Area, and if you were to make this modification, it would be consistent with the practices of other Bay Area counties. So with that.
So I assume this doesn't increase the number past 11, it just allows one of those members to be, because you want an odd number.
That is correct, Supervisor Tissier.
Okay, great, thank you.
If I could make a comment or two, the liaison to the IHSS has fallen to me somehow. I think Supervisor Hill did it for a while. We have had just a really hard time recruiting members for this board, and Supervisor Slocum and I did the last round of interviewing, and we just didn't have enough people from whom to choose. And the provider category is especially difficult to fill. And so we've had a couple of providers who are no longer providers, and one of them would like to stay on the board, and so the liaison to the supervisor helps us with that. But I continue to do outreach and try to recruit. It's really helpful to have community members talking to us and telling us the needs. And so by approving this, it will give us a little more flexibility when we do more recruiting.
Very good.
So I'll make a motion to approve that amendment.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
County Manager's Report.
Mr. President, members of the board, the County Manager's Report this week includes a shout out to John Keene and the Probation Department for the outstanding job that they have done in completing the post-release community supervision evidence-based training sanctions and reward program. As you know from reading Mr. Keene's previous reports to the board on this subject, this particular program provides a consistent framework of sanctions and rewards for those that are under the supervision of the post-release community supervision unit. And we think it's extremely important for their successful reentry into the program and hopefully for turning their lives around so that they can be law-abiding and contributing citizens to our society. There are currently about 400 individuals in this under supervision in this program. I also want to thank the Deputy County Manager, Mike Callaghy, for organizing a Day of Action program involving human trafficking. On May 10th, approximately 30 volunteers which were recruited by Mr. Callaghy and the Status on Women Commission met for a training that was held in 101 and then fanned out in the community to check on compliance with the posting of notices in various establishments that are required by law to notify those that may be victims of human trafficking or who may observe people that they believe are victimized by human traffickers with appropriate reporting numbers. And we will provide a report to the board, a fuller report later on the results of their survey of the community that day. But I want to thank again Mike and all of those who participated in that event. Also, I wanted to make note of the fact that on May 12th, the Human Services Agency and the County of City and County San Francisco held an event, Spark Point at Skyline College, that was the CalFresh in a Day event, in which they provided assistance, various types of assistance to those that may be in need of food. There were EBT cards processed. In fact, 8 San Mateo County residents and 2 San Francisco County residents received their cards that day, as well as 30 students received additional food bags, as well as other information regarding CalFresh, and it was an outstanding program. I wanted to thank Ileana and all of our other partners that participated on that date. The board, as the board may recall, in February the board adopted a countywide ethics and whistleblower program, and part of that program was to institute a training for all county employees with respect to ethics. And a new 30-minute online ethical training program has been created and will be launched to all county employees in the month of June. The Measure A Oversight Committee on May 8th held its second meeting at the College of San Mateo. The next meeting will be on October 23rd at 6 p.m. At the College of San Mateo's College Heights conference room. A reminder that voting is now underway for the June 3rd primary. Voters can cast their ballots for the June 3rd primary at the designated direct primary election locations at the Register of Voters, 440 Tower Road in San Mateo, and at 555 County Center. One other event I wanted to call out, that is the annual Jobs for Youth Awards and Fundraising Breakfast will be held on May 22nd at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Foster City, and it's always a very worthwhile event. Also, I wanted to just make a quick note, and you'll have a full report on this in June, of the governor's May revise. As you have undoubtedly read by now, the governor continues a very careful approach to state finances and debt repayment. He has recognized an additional $2.4 billion in additional revenue as part of the May revise, but most of that revenue is offset by projected increases in expenditures, primarily Medi-Cal, associated with a large increase in Medi-Cal caseload growth associated with the Affordable Care Act, and higher state general fund requirements under Prop 98 for education, higher drought-related expenditures, and a plan finally to fully fund the CalSTRS system over a 30-year period. It also includes, based on the assumption that ACA 1 will be approved by the voters in November, a $2.1 billion reserve going forward for the state in order to respond to future economic uncertainties. For the county, there was certainly some good news in the governor's May revision. The State Department of Finance added $4.2 million to the $6.7 million already in the January budget to repay the county and the cities for the loss of triple flip funds in prior fiscal years. That totals $2.9 million, and we're very pleased by the state honoring its ongoing commitments to the local governments in San Mateo County. In the area of public safety, the budget proposes $11.3 million on a statewide basis to be allocated to probation departments directly for the temporary increase in PRCS caseloads due to the federal court ordered changes in prison credit programs. The budget also projects slightly lower state sales tax revenues, about a $13.5 million decrease statewide in 109 funding. That should have no significant impact on the county. As I say, on June 3rd, we will provide you with a fuller report and update on the May revise and actions that the legislature is taking in putting together the final state budget. If you have any questions, I'll certainly attempt to answer them.
Questions? I just had one about the triple flip. So will the next budget year be the end of the story, because he's getting close to paying off the 204 bonds that kind of gave rise to the triple flip?
That's right. When the bonds are paid off, then we go back to the old system, so that money won't be taken out of the county.
So is it just, I mean, the budget he's putting forward here is 14-15.
The
issue will be alive in 15-16, right?
Right, because we're always paid off in arrears. This what we're being paid off is for 12-13.
Yeah. So would that 15-16 be the end of it?
It theoretically should be the end of it, yes.
Okay. We'll miss talking about the triple flip.
I have great confidence that there'll be something else that will take its place by then.
All right, we have board member reports. Start, Mr. Slocum.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I've got 4 quick items. Well, first of all, we held a bicycle rodeo in North Fair Oaks on May 10th, And there were a lot of kids that came, and there was an obstacle course, bike tune-up stations, safety stations, and we gave away prizes, T-shirts, and drinks to the kids. It was really a lot of fun to watch those kids, and I guess the overall purpose was bike safety and for them to be sure to wear helmets when they're riding their bikes. But just wanted to mention that Rafael Avedano from the Siena Youth Center was one of the organizers, as well as Lori Pastorelli, the manager of our Commute Alternatives program. And they just did a super job. Lori decorated the inside of the building and made us wear cowboy hats and vests, and it was quite a rodeo event. The California Highway Patrol, Peninsula Traffic Congestion Relief, the Sheriff's Office, and Chain Reaction Bicycle of Redwood City actually gave us some bike locks and helmets, which we gave away to the kids. And a real surprise was that Rick Sutton, if you're a bicycle enthusiast, he actually started something called the Sea Otter Classic, which is this bike race down on the coast in Santa Cruz. He actually grew up in North Fair Oaks and came to the bike rodeo and talked to the kids, and it was really great to have him there. There was a young man, probably 12 years old or so. His name is Eldo Contreras. The last thing that we raffled off was a Trek mountain bike. Aldo Contreras, this kid from North Fair Oaks, didn't own a bicycle, and he actually won that Trek bicycle, which was just fantastic. Also, we gave away Starbucks gift cards, Target gift cards, helmets, bike locks, and little ditty bags. So it was quite a success, and hopefully next year we can do the same thing. Also, this past Saturday, May 17th, about 150 Latino kids from North Fair Oaks gathered at the Fair Oaks Community Center for what was called the Oye Conference. And it was basically put on by the North Fair Oaks Youth Initiative folks. And it was really amazing to hear the stories of the young people from North Fair Oaks and some of the challenges that they face. And they just basically shared their stories with one another. And it was, it's the third annual, I think, event, but it was really awesome. I just would mention that my legislative aide, Irving Torres, was one of the keynote speakers, and he stood up before these 150 kids and told his personal story, which was just an incredible journey of his life. And basically his message was, don't ever give up, and you can do anything that you put your mind to. Finally, May 31st, we're going to be doing the second annual Be Seen Keeping It Clean event. It's going to be a cleanup event for the North Fair Oaks neighborhoods. Starts at 9 o'clock. We meet at the community center on Middlefield there, and we'll wrap up about noon. There'll be lunch served, and last year, as you'll remember, we had about 300 volunteers that came down, and the awesome thing was that we picked up nearly 4 tons of trash and junk from the neighborhood. And you know, that's a lot of trash to pick up in a morning. So looking forward to that. Mark your calendar for Saturday, May 31st. That's it. Oh, there was one other thing. I knew I pulled this cell phone out for a reason here. Just give me a second. The young people who come to these conferences all read their speeches now on cell phones. And it just amazes me. But let me see here if I can find it. I know. Yeah. I know. There was a young woman that lives in Redwood Shores. Her name is, I think, Lucy Lee. And she is the youngest woman ever to qualify for the U.S. Open. I think she's 11 years old. So let that be an inspiration to us all who happen to be golfers from Redwood City, Redwood Shores. Congratulations. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple quick announcements. One, yet again, Disaster Preparedness Day. Our 10th annual will be on Saturday, June 7th. It will be on the first day of the San Mateo County Fair. And as I've mentioned before, those who arrive between 10 and 11 will get free admission and parking. And they can also, after they go through our disaster preparedness area, can move on to the fairgrounds and enjoy the day. There'll be CPR classes. people can learn from their different cities about disaster contingency plans and see some CERT, which is the Community Emergency Response Team exercises, and also we'll have a lot of the trucks and rescue dogs and things like that there on the ground. So hopefully everyone can come and bring their family so we can make sure the children see what they need to do as well. We have several upcoming Age Well, Drive Smart seminars coming up. First one is in Redwood City on Thursday, July 17th. The second one is in Belmont on Thursday, August 7th. And the second one and the third one is in South San Francisco on Wednesday, September 17th. So if you go on my website, you'll see the location and time. They're fairly similar, but a little bit different in timing. And the other thing I just want to mention is I'm going to be meeting tomorrow with Jean Fraser and our new Environmental Health Director, Heather Forshey, and we're going to be starting out looking at the whole issue around the grading of restaurants for cleanliness and all. I know our surrounding communities have them, and I think it's important for us to take a look at our restaurants and make sure that, as we all eat out a lot and go to different places, it'd be nice to know what we're getting into and make sure that these areas are very clean and safe for eating. So we're going to be initiating that this year.
Thank you. Could I just add on to that, or make a suggestion real quickly for the group's consideration? I was in Somerset County recently, and I can't remember where it was, but the signs that they put in the restaurants for inspections, they actually had the county seal, but they had a QR code on the seal itself. And what that allows you to do is take your cell phone, scan the QR code, and then it would bring up the detailed evaluation by the environmental health folks of that restaurant, rather than trying to read those carbon copies that they post in the restaurants. And I thought that was really a great idea, to use technology to give people who are visiting the restaurants, additional information right there on their smartphone. So you might, I'm sure the new director knows about that, but it was very innovative.
She initiated the one recently in Santa Clara County, so that she just finished that right before she got up here. So I will check that. I'm going to assume Santa Clara is pretty technologically savvy, but that's a good one to check out. So thank you for that.
Yeah, another idea in that area. I think I recall reading in San Francisco, I think maybe Yelp integrates those rankings, when you do searches. So great area to dig into. Supervisor Horsley?
Well, I'm just going to adjourn to memory. Actually, there's 4 people from the Sheriff's Department, my, I guess, former colleagues, Leonard Cabanis, Pat Proctor, Forrest Paul, and Don Owen. Forrest Paul actually was the first sergeant in the Sheriff's Department. Many people don't realize that. Up until the 1950s, the Sheriff's Department, they did not have officers. They had a few sheriff's deputies and an undersheriff. They did not wear uniforms. It wasn't until Earl Whitmore was elected in 1952, and his first sergeant was Forrest Paul, and he recently passed away. The other person, Don Owen, was my sergeant when I was a new young deputy sheriff, and he's a World War II veteran. He had received a battlefield commission as a lieutenant. Never spoke about his war experiences, but you just knew that he saw a lot, did a lot, and he had a great impact on all of the younger deputies, and knowing what was important and what was not important. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Supervisor. And no report today from Supervisor Groom. I just wanted to make two comments. In my district, there's a situation where the Burlingame School District is trying to reopen a former elementary school called the Hoover School, and it's caused a lot of concern in the neighbors, particularly on the Hillsborough neighbors. So unfortunately, there's been litigation filed, and it's a difficult situation. But about 2 weeks ago, we brought everyone together for a public meeting and used PCRC to help facilitate that meeting. And they did a really terrific job. And I kind of just accidentally found out that PCRC, there's basically a kind of a bucket of facilitation mediation services that the county can draw upon. So it worked out great here because we were able to use them, and they it really helped the meeting, and plus we didn't have to charge the cities. So anyway, that was something that I wasn't aware of, but that bucket of services is there for us if you see opportunities. And then secondly, I just also just wanted to report that I attended a conference pulled together last week on at-risk youth that was organized by 2 school board members. And they had some great speakers on the topic. But I wanted to give a special acknowledgement to Patrick Lucy, who is one of our correctional officers. He also serves on the South San Francisco School Board and has just a personal passion and dedication to youth like nothing I've ever seen. He has a nonprofit that he does in his spare time that works with hands-on, kid by kid in South City that are having difficulties, and he knows all the kids. He has a great rapport with them. He brings them down to see the jail. He just through his pure, force of just his passion for this subject, his dedication to the subject is remarkable. So he spoke and was a big contributor to that conference. So I just wanted to acknowledge him. We're going to now adjourn to the closed session. Okay. All right, good afternoon. We are reconvening the Board of Supervisors meeting for May 20th. We did meet in closed session. Mr. Byers, if you could report out on that.
Yes, thank you, President Pine, members of the board. The board did meet in closed session to consider 2 different potential litigation items, and there was no action taken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Byers. Okay, we are now going to proceed with item 5 on our agenda, which is the opening of written proposals and call for oral bids for the proposed sale by the county of the Circle Star property. So pursuant to an earlier resolution, Resolution 073107, dated April 22nd, 2014, the board declared its intention to sell Circle Star Plaza and set terms and conditions of the sale. Among the terms and conditions of the sale was that all written proposals for the purchase of the property would be for at least $85,500,000, that the written proposal would be on a form prepared by the county staff that would also be a purchase and sale agreement, and that all written proposals would be received by the close of business on May 14th, 2014. Further, all parties submitting a written proposal were required to submit into escrow a deposit of $10 million in earnest money. So briefly, how I'd like to proceed here this afternoon is to we'll go ahead and open the written proposals that the county has received and ask staff to confirm that these proposals conform to the requirements of the earlier resolution 073107. After we've opened them, we'll identify the highest written proposal. After we've identified the highest proposal, we'll call for any oral bids, but those can only be accepted by the parties that have submitted. We can only accept those submitted by parties that have submitted escrow deposits as required under the resolution. Once we've received any oral bids that may be made, I'll identify the highest proposal for the purchase of the property. We'll then move to the next item on the agenda, which is the consideration of the highest proposal and a determination of whether to enter into a purchase and sale agreement with the party making the highest proposal. So is there any member of the public who would like to speak at this point about the process itself or have any questions about the process itself? Seeing none, any comments or any questions from the colleagues about the process? Okay. Then we'll proceed with the opening of the written proposals. The county has received 2 proposals, which are sealed. They are right here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one now. This is the first time. Okay, so this is a proposal from GC Net Lease, Rancho Cordova, member LLC. I'll get back to my script. And the amount on this proposal is $90,100,000. So I'm now going to hand this over to John Nimblin, our counsel, so they can confirm that it meets the requirements of the resolution. Here's the cover page. Here's the rest.
Thank you.
Okay, our counsel and our property manager have confirmed that the proposal conforms to resolution 073107. So I will now open the second proposal. Okay, so the second proposal is from Divco West Acquisitions LLC, and the bid amount of this proposal is $88,488,888.88. So again, I'll hand this proposal to Mr. Niblin for review. Okay, thank you. So having reviewed the two proposals, I conclude that the proposal of GC Net Lease Rancho Cordova member LLC in the amount of $90,100,000 is the highest written proposal received by the county. So the next step is to see if there are any oral bids from the two groups that have submitted proposals. Pursuant to Resolution 073107, I'm now going to call for the oral bids. The resolution states, as is consistent with California Government Code, that any initial oral bid in this case must be at least 5% above the highest written proposal received. So as noted, the highest written proposal received here is $90,100,000 proposal from GC Net Lease. Therefore, the minimum oral bid would be that amount plus 5%. $94 million. One more time. $94,605,000. Okay. So the minimum oral bid, should there be an oral bid, would be $94,605,000. Is there anyone at this time who would like to make an oral bid in that minimum amount? Okay. So seeing no oral bids, therefore the written proposal of GC Net Lease Rancho Cordova member LLC in the amount of $90,100,000 is the highest proposal received by the county for the purchase of the property. Okay. So we're now going to conclude this portion of the matter. We've received the highest proposal, and we'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is consideration of that proposal in the purchase and sale of Circle Star Plaza property. So that is item 6 on our agenda, which includes a proposed resolution to accept a proposal for the purchase of Circle Star Plaza, authorize the president of the board to execute the documents, and to authorize the county manager to execute related notices, consent, ESCO instructions in connection with the acceptance of the bid and the execution of the purchase and sale agreement.
President Pine, I would make a motion to adopt the resolution accepting the proposal for the purchase of the Circle Star Plaza in items B and C.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion acceptance, and again, this would be to the purchaser being GC Net Lease Rancho Cordova member LLC for $90,100,000. So a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
That passes unanimously, and that concludes this item. Thank you for attending. Thank you for bearing with the formality of this, but it's a very important item for the county.
So those two fellows over there on the left, those two guys?
Up to the front too.
Our real properties division, that first of all, the purchase and now the sale, that's as well as our county manager's office.
Yes, congratulations to our team.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you can get a card. We're adjourning the meeting. Thank you.